One of the challenges that we face today in business communications is the word of globalization. And this really means that we are working in a multinational, cross-country, cross-geography business environment. And sometimes it's very easy for Westerners just to come to Asia and think that they can set up and run things in a Western fashion. Likewise, sometimes we Asians think because we know a lot, we can also do the same thing and transport ourselves into Europe or to the US and run things in a very Asian manner. And this is where the context of communication and culture is important to understand. Cross-cultural management is a key skill in today's business environment. And to be able to do cross-cultural management, we need to understand the context of culture in relation to communication. Some of these aspects of culture and communication can be found in the diversity of the workforce. What does this mean? Diversity is usually talked about either from a gender perspective, or maybe a social status, or maybe other aspects of race, religion, ethnicity. These are the many, many different aspects of diversity that are considered in the workplace today. Take example, Singapore. In Singapore, you have holidays for almost every ethnicity and religion. They do respect Christian holidays, they do respect Islamic holidays, and they also respect Indian holidays. Can you imagine a country filled with many, many different religious holidays? And that's just an example of valuing diversity and understanding that in the context of business. Particular here in the Philippines, it's a good thing that we have started to recognize Islamic holidays as well, because they are a part of the entire workforce that moves in business today. And these things shape communication because in certain aspects, these things have to be considered before a particular communication or training or any kind of town hall or any mode of operations is done. Here's a simple example. When I worked in the Middle East and we did training there, the training room consisted of two sides, the left-hand side for men and the right-hand side for women. It's not something that you can readily mix. And that's primarily because of the religious context. So you have to be mindful also of the different types of activities that you would be doing in a training setting. And this is very important. The other aspect could be about gender. Women in the office and particularly new mothers who need to take their children to work because they're nursing them are provided what we call nursing rooms or Diana rooms where they could actually breastfeed their babies. These are some of the innovative ways that the Human Resources Group is responding to diversity in the workforce. Particular to the company that I work with, it is important for us to value also faith in the organization that allows people to express that, but not in a particular group, such that we have what you call an interfaith community, wherein the community responds to the spiritual growth of the individual rather than focusing on a religious belief per se. So these are some of the aspects of culture and communication that happens in the workplace. More importantly, from a business perspective, when you are dealing with clients, there are a number of pieces that come about. And not just clients, but sometimes we have bosses who are expats or from other countries, or we ourselves are handling people from other nations. There are many different pieces of culture and communication that intertwine. These are the following aspects of communication in culture and the elements that may affect business transactions. For example, risk. Risk is a key aspect of business, and usually Asians are more averse to taking risk than Westerners. So when solutions are presented, the solutions are either more conservative or more bold, depending on the particular audience or client that you are presenting the solutions to. The other aspect is also hierarchy. What does this mean? In a setting of business, particularly for Asia and the Middle East, hierarchy plays a lot of importance. So when someone of a higher stature or position steps into a particular room, everybody respectfully stands and acknowledges the individual. Whereas in the West, people are generally treated equal or the same. And it can be difficult when you talk to counterparts, thinking that your counterparts are the ones making the decisions, but in actuality, from a hierarchical perspective, they were just sent there to look and discover and explore things, but they're not the ones making those decisions. And sometimes this plays a challenge when we're talking about sales or discussions or getting into agreements. Another aspect is communication itself. Is communication direct or indirect? And for most of Western countries, communication can be very direct and straightforward, and there is nothing taken personally. So also from a relationship perspective, it is purely a transactional process. However, in other countries, particularly in Asia, we have a high context with regards to a relational rather than a transactional process. And our communication can sometimes become indirect. So these are the aspects of culture and communications that affect and enhance also our business communication skills. It's important for us to understand that when we do prepare for meeting with other people or responding to, again, both our clients or people that we work with, we are aware of the context and the culture that they come from, and we provide an appropriate response for them. Here's another example just in day-to-day that happened during a training session. We had a British facilitator that we invited to do the training, and the audience was basically mostly Filipinos. Most British people have a very sarcastic and dry humor, and sometimes when they ask questions, they're not asking questions for us to answer. They're asking questions really just to poke us and to let us think about outside the box. And what happens when we do not understand this kind of communication? We tend to answer all of the questions posed to us, when in actuality, they're not really asking us to answer the question. That was one aspect of how culture played into the training session. In another example, we had some clients who came to visit from a Scandinavian country. And people from Scandinavia are very polite, but they're also very, very impersonal. And so when the client came to visit and the client was very warm and friendly, we took it to mean that we can be very warm, friendly, and personal with them, which presented some awkward moments with the client in terms of responding when personal questions were asked. And that is a particular no-no for Scandinavian countries. You normally avoid questions about family or about status, whether you're single or married. Those questions are not normally asked. But here, in the Philippines, we readily ask that. We ask about age, we ask about whether you're single, married, how many children, all of those things, which are of a particular no-no in other countries. So these are just some aspects and examples of culture and how it affects communication in the workplace.